My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to this episode of Legally Clueless, and this is what's coming up.
The doctor confirms and he's like, you guys need surgery and it needs to be fast. Like, if not today, then tomorrow. So he asks one simple question. Do you guys have insurance? I'm like, no, for him, we don't. Insurance, like any other thing, is a product and there are terms and conditions. So under the terms that we had cover for mom, we were not able to get coverage for the child in that moment. Getting into the point of delivery, the priority was her. So I took the package that made most sense with regards to what needs we had at the time, which was delivery. We can opt to go to a public hospital, but guess what? The doctors are on strike. Before he leaves, he also gives us an estimation of how much we'll spend, 800 to 700 upwards, depending on how treatment goes. As a young person in business, I get like a 30K this time, and the next time I see another 30K is like in 2-3 months. So if you stretch that thin, it's not making sense. And that's what pushes us into making some decisions that look very unreasonable, but it is because of your circumstances. So we are caught without insurance, and that's like a reality of it. And I felt bad. I really felt like as a man I had failed. I felt like I had fallen short of the expectation that was there of me to take care of this family.
That is part 2 of Steve's story. So that's coming up a little later in this episode. But welcome to another episode. If you are an OG member, where are my words going? If you are an OG member, welcome to the family. If you are a newbie, welcome. You chose an incredible episode to listen to. However, if you have not listened to part 1, you may want to listen to the previous episode and then jump into this one. This particular podcast goes out every single Monday. On Wednesday, we have the Midweek Teas. Thursday, we have for mannerless women. And Fridays, we have Ask a Therapist. Make sure you also sign up for our newsletter. A link to that is in the show notes, and it goes out every single Wednesday. I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you for listening and being part of this community where we just celebrate African stories in all their complexity and courage, and we also connect through those stories so that we can continue walking towards our best selves. Before we jump into the story, I do want to clarify 2 comments that came up in last week's episode from someone called Pikachu and someone called Didi, who love the podcast but were asking or wondering why we split into part 1, part 2, and even sometimes part 3. I think, Pikachu, you thought it felt unnecessary. It really isn't. So we have 2 reasons why we do that. The first one is a lot of our stories are pretty heavy and touch on heavy themes, and it's hard to put them all into one episode. It can really make an episode extremely triggering. And so since inception, from the very beginning of this podcast, we always split up stories, especially when there are themes that could be quite heavy. That's one. The second thing is the data from our wonderful community shows that y'all don't like episodes that go past 50 minutes. So sometimes a story is super long. One recording could take even 2 hours, and we want to honor the storyteller and honor their context and not edit out things that are important to them to tell you. And so there is no way we're going to put a 2-hour story in one episode. No way we're going to put a 1.5-hour long story in one episode, because the data shows that 15 minutes is the max for you. And so that's why we split it in part 1, part 2. I hope that clears it up for you. And yeah, thank you for being part of this family. So let's jump right into it. Last week, we heard part 1 of Steve Ataru's story, and it was just like a powerful reflection on choosing alignment over approval. Trusting his wife's intuition was really what was my takeaway from last week, which is just so powerful for him to highlight. This week, we continue with part 2, and it's deeply emotional. Deeply emotional. I mean, he opens up about the long and difficult journey in seeking emergency surgery and treatment for his baby, Zayn, the recovery journey that was hectic, the financial strain, and Something he talks about that I need to get better at, and I don't know if it's the same for you, is learning to ask for help. So let's jump right into part 2 of Steve's story. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
Basically, he'd developed a blockage in his digestive system, the small intestines to be exact. Whether that happened, progressively from birth or just from an instance of the moment, I do not know. But it looked like it was happening progressively because of how the symptoms were building up. So what happens is that when he feeds, he's not able to keep it down because there's a blockage that is preventing the natural movement of his bowel. So it's not able to push whatever is needed into the system. So what they'd really now need to do is get into his system and take care of the blockage. That looks different in different situations. We needed to run further tests. We needed to get more expert opinion on the same. And so this doctor, the doctor who initially confirmed these diagnoses, he sat us down. Baby is still crying, by the way, from morning all through afternoon. He's just crying continuously. If he's not sleeping, he's crying. So the doctor confirms and he's like, yeah, you guys need surgery and it needs to be fast. It needs to be like, if not today, then tomorrow. So he asked one simple question. Do you guys have insurance? I'm like, no, for him, we don't. He was a newborn. We had barely, settled with him. Mom is covered, but child is not. Okay. What do you do? Niko biashara. And yeah, niko biashara na wife. No, I think, insurance, like any other thing, is a product, and there are terms and conditions that come with products. So under the terms that we had cover for mom, we were not able to get coverage for the child in that moment. And this happens because I think I thank God that I'm informed to make certain decisions with an awareness of the terms and conditions of it. So getting into the point of delivery, the priority was her. So I took the package that made most sense with regards to what needs we had at the time, which was delivery. So there are providers now who are able to, the insurance providers now who are able to give you coverage for certain things, that cover certain things and do not cover others. So it wasn't really an insurance issue for us, but it was mostly a resource issue because one, I am young in business. I am just starting off something. We are strained in all ways. So how do I still continue to secure my family? What I do is get what I'm able to get. We had NHIF at the time, but of course, because again of the strains that you're going through as a person trying to start off something, you're probably not able to keep up with payments, and so you're falling so back off. And at the time, you're probably not imagining something of this sort could happen to you. You're thinking, IJ happened, so it can't be that it ends up happen. As the doctor is asking me these questions, I'm like, man, it happened. The one thing I felt could not happen has happened. We have a medical emergency and we're not covered. What's the other thing? The next level of this conversation. We can opt to go to a public hospital. But guess what? The doctors are on strike. So we can't go to Kenyatta or wherever. So the doctor is real with us. He's like, guys, it's going to be an expensive thing. You guys need money and you need it fast. I can make a few referrals to you. but it will be an expensive affair. Here's a list of hospitals. You guys decide and call me back. I'll refer you. And he leaves. Before he leaves, he also gives us an estimation of how much we'll spend. 800 to 700 upwards, depending on how, treatment goes, depending on the complications that come up. 800 to a million bob. I'm like, we are fried, man. I could not see front from back. The child is crying. Right next to us, there's a mom who has just, received a child, and the family is rejoicing. On our side, it's baby crying and mom crying as well. They're even coming to ask, guys, what's up, what's happening? And we can't tell them much. So I don't know. I was in despair for some moment. Even now, right now the medics are on strike. Over terms of employment and a lot of those things, and it doesn't mean much to us right now because we do not need it. But for the first time, I found myself in this position here. This thing has affected me, and I have no option. So I had to call people. That's now the thing. You have to have people around you. I called who I knew best I could call. People around us who I knew, well, it's not really to ask for money, but it's to tell them we're in a situation, we're in trouble. And we called a couple of our friends, and even our pastor came. So even for them, it was like, man, how is this? Like, the baby was just perfect, how is this happening? But anyway, we did not spend a lot of time talking, but just acting. I'm so grateful that they were able to help us move around and make decisions. Eventually, we were referred to Kijabe Hospital, and we went that evening. So baby has been crying from morning. They went to the hospital at around 9 a.m. We're going to Kijabe at around 10 p.m. So we haven't even carried clothes or anything. We just went. And it's raining heavily. Our friends, they drove us. I thank God again for them. They drove us to Kijabe in rain. I checked us in and left. They gave us the clothes, the jackets and whatever they had on their hands. And so we were left there now to fend ourselves. Remember now, our first child is at home with a nanny. We didn't even tell him we were going. We thought it would be consultation then back, but it's now a life-threatening situation. So tumeishia tuko Kijabe, then we have to make arrangements for them as well to be in a situation where they're taken care of. And so we start the process of treatment and preparation for surgery. I don't know how much I can get into this, but I think for the first time, a lot of times we give statistics in Kenya. We say probably 70% of the population in Kenya lives on less than $1 a day. So when you say that 70%, you don't picture yourself there. It's like how do I say wengine? It's not a me problem. It's kuna wase wanateseka huko nje. But I sat down and I said, wait, I think I'm part of that statistic, of these statistics that people keep throwing around. Less than $1 a day is not really that leo naamka natumia 150 ama so mbili kwa siku. It's not when people throw around these statistics, it is not that. I thought about it and I'm said, wait, I'm part of this population that people are talking about, the struggling population, where I'm not necessarily spending 150 bob a day or less than that, but as a young person in business, I get like a 30K this time, and the next time I see another 30K is like in I don't know when, 2-3 months. So if you stretch that thin, it's not making sense. And that's what pushes us into making some decisions that look very unreasonable, but it is because of your circumstances. So we are caught without insurance, and that's like a reality of it. And I felt bad. I really felt like as a man I had failed. I felt like I had fallen short of the expectation that was there of me to take care of this family. And it was heavy on me. It was really heavy. So much so that I think it affected my ability to see solutions around it. So the child is in hospital. I'm trying to take him through the kawaida tests. They have to do blood tests. They have to do x-rays. They have to do all these things that are very straining. And every time you do that, it's ding, ding, ding. Man. Anyway, the prayer was that we would get a solution. I was still hoping that he would not need to go through surgery at the time, but it was looking more and more like that. So they take him into HDU. I think it was then that I began to understand the seriousness of the situation, because as we got in there, I looked around and all the children I could see in that room looked like they were near death. You know, they're on machines, they're in pain, on strong painkillers. They look like I've been there for months. It's a tricky place to be in. They give him a bed, but because of the pressure of cases coming in from outside because of the strike from medics, we had a demand of places. So they're even struggling on who deserves this place more than the other. On that moment, you're speaking for your child more, but when you think about it, the other person also needs the same thing that you need. But you get what you get. And we settle in there, and next day he has surgery, goes well, comes back to rest. On the evening, complications that need him to get another surgery immediately after. So all now this time, it's now Monday, it's getting into Tuesday. I haven't told my clients what happened. So people are calling me for work. They're asking how far, is it? So I have to send for my gear to come, my laptops and everything, so that I can continue with projects in Kijabe. I think when I look back, I am grateful again that God always holds us down. The same way he held me through in different situations. So these people that we have called family, friends, have stood in the gap for us. They have paid what bills that we had incurred till then. Someone just comes with a 10K, a 5K, or a K, and it's like, you just sort out what you need to sort out. You just buy what you need to buy. And I could tell that there was a covering that was around us in that way, because we had not even, for some people, we had not even called to ask, Niaje, we need this and that. It was just, you guys take. We hadn't even talked about the insurance thing. We hadn't talked about it, but people would do that. A family, man, I think there are people who just come and send in a whole deposit fee that is needed for surgery, and that one is sorted. So even as all this is happening, in my mind, I am praying and hoping that is the last of it that anyone needs to send, because you don't want to also put people in that situation of coming to rescue you from that thing. But it is happening in real time and it needs to happen. So once or twice I did find myself in a situation where I have to call someone and tell them, Niaje, I need this much. Please help us sort this out. And the person would send no questions. I know money is a sensitive thing, especially between people who know each other. I know that I'm more sensitive to that than I think even the person who I'm asking from. So I'm very careful on what I promise. I have assessed this situation. If the docs have said they need like 800 to a million in terms of all through this whole journey, then what are my chances of being able to pay you back your 5K, Unless I get a breakthrough, because even on the business I've been working on, I can't even say that's money I make right now in a year, So I had to be very honest with myself in knowing that this is not the time to put up the savior mentality of a man. Because I think for the longest time, we have won that. And I think this situation came sooner than I thought it would, because it forced me to confront a vulnerability that typically, we don't want to take as men, which is I need help and I may not be able to thank you for that help in the way of returning it back. I just need help right now. So it was very, very, very challenging for me. But now listen, this is the other part. It is that there's something greater at play here than my ego as a man. My ego has been superseded by a life-threatening situation for my child. So something else has kicked in, and this is the instinct to protect. So I am willing to go around my ego to protect, because ultimately that is the reason, that is my why. I cannot say that I'm unable to ask for help because it's uncomfortable. So who then does this child rely on to state the case for them? So I think that is something I had to really awaken myself to quite early in that process. It's like everything pushed aside. Why am I doing this? It's for Zayn. He needs to survive this. So what am I willing to do to make it happen? What am I willing to do as a man to ensure that this boy survives? Surely asking for help is the least I could do, because I have failed to be the one to provide it. Why then can't I be a champion for this? So we managed, and we did talk to people, we did mobilize, and it happened. We got surgery for him. Now, I was thinking this thing would be surgery and we're out. But it is surgery, and then you have a situation where the child is in a recovery mode with interventions that have been made to help him just survive the situation for some time before they do another surgery. So tumerudi home na yeye hajapona, but you have to go home with him, that you manage the condition from that till he recovers and then arudi. So he had they had to leave an opening in his stomach to help him, to help his insides heal until they put it back. I'm giving this detail because it is the full breadth of what I experienced and the kind of battles that we fought, and I fought as a man. So I cannot now then just say that I am outside providing na mama na deal. I have to be present. I have to be there to ensure that I help in changing this child, because it is not an easy thing. It is exhausting because you do it almost thrice as much as you do for a normal child to prevent irritation on the skin. So I have to be present. I have to be there, not just to say that I am paying the bills or I'm trying to find a way to pay the bills, In fact, what I did is that as we were in Kijabe, I got a place to sleep there, like outside of hospital, and I'd camp there mchana, jioni narudi nalala, mchana ikifika narudi tena. I transferred my life to Kijabe. Meanwhile, our dear child has to stay with our sister and the nanny, because this is Bethel now, the older child. We might not be able to meet him soon because we're still trying to figure this out. So he's there with our sister. He's doing well, and I think we were fortunate to have someone who could stay with him. So I was forced to be present, and I knew that had to happen, to be there for changing the child, to know how to treat whatever wounds that he had, to know how to, put him down to rest, to know how to clean him up, to wash him. And I think that's when now, even as a married couple, I think that was one of the most edifying chapters of our life thus far, because it is a hardship that you had not expected, but you have to manage it together. I remember, because now I have realized not even any work that I go out there will be able to meet whatever needs we have. We need to do a fund drive. So how do we do it? Let's design a poster. So because I do design work, naturally I'm the one to design it. I think I remember telling my wife it's the hardest job I've ever done, because as I was designing it, I think it was like, it's like you remember in school how we used to, mwalimu kabla kuchape ana realize hakuna kiboko, then it's like, go uende utafute kiboko. You're going to look for the very thing that is going to be the source of such anguish for you in a short while. So you're wondering, you can't go get out the smallest one because atajam zaidi. So you have to go get what is reasonable. So poster for fund drive, I design it. How much are we asking for? What is it for? What is the condition? And then now we have to post it. It is gone beyond because we don't want now to burden our close circles with this thing. It is not a one-step process. It is a multi-step process that needs a lot of support, continuous. Some of the medication that we would spend in a week there's some ointments we'd buy that, a jar would cost like 2K, and in a week it's over, So for a household that is making close to nothing during that period, it's a lot. Remember, you still have to eat, you still have to survive as a family. So I designed this thing, and it was so heavy, but I said, the same thing, whatever it takes. And we distributed that poster. Instagram, WhatsApp groups. Hey, man. It was heavy. I think that's one of the hardest thing I have done professionally. Just being able to design a fund drive for my own son, a poster for a fund drive for my own son and for my family. But we put it out there. So as we begin to see messages of trickling in, this much has been sent, this much has been sent, this much has been sent. And within a few days, we have what we need for surgery. So this is the process of it. We get into hospital. He's checked in. They did the first procedure. They do the first procedure, which is successful. They have taken some samples from his system, and they have gone to do some lab tests to them. That will take time. As he is on that evening, as he's recovering from that procedure, a a complication happens where there's a rupture in his intestine. When that happens, they have to go back in and repair that rupture. When they repair that rupture, they have to still make his system work, because even in the context of that repair, he still has to feed, he still has to, he still has to pass stool. But he can't use where the area that has been repaired in his intestine. So they have to pause that area for a while. So when they pause that area, that's when they redirect and have an opening on the side of his stomach. It's called a colostomy. So that is what he has. The surgery now we did the fundraiser for was to return his system back to normal. From that colostomy back, as we wait for the initial results they had taken to understand what caused this blockage. So it was a step of a series of issues that came up that even for us was a lot to digest. But it is that we went to Kijabe initially. He successfully went through some procedures. Then we went back home, awaiting the next step. As we await that next step, we realize we do not have funds to do what is ahead and even survive in the here and now, because now he needs medication, he needs the ointments, he needs care, and we also need to survive. So how do we do it? Yeah. So I think it was that a realization that for what is ahead, we may not be able to bear. So what do? We need more help. We really just genuinely need more help. Something to help us cover what is needed as we figure things out. So as we did this fundraiser, we're at home, we're still taking care of this child in his condition. And we managed to get the target of money. It wasn't a lot, by the way. We had foreseen around 300K. For some people right now, that's like, you spend that in a day or something. Yeah, it's like money that people have, but it's not in our hands at the moment. So, but when we manage to raise that money, he's still recovering from, he's not ready for that procedure. So you still have to continue managing him, ensure he doesn't have any infections, etc. Anyway, we do manage and get back to hospital. He gets the surgery done. It's successful. When the tests come back, the doctors say they thought he had a condition that had caused the blockage of his system. And that would have meant more treatment in the future, more procedures. But it came back inconclusive. In all this, we really had to pray for this child. I remember one time my wife just said, we need to take him to church. We were not going to church, by the way, during this time because of course, the obvious reasons. But on that Sunday, she's like, she needs to go to church. And we went. And I did not know, because the idea was just to have our pastor pray over him. But it ended up being a session of prayer that really triggered a lot of things. Other parents came up with their children who were not well. Other people who were unwell came up for prayer. And this is an area of our life that I'm not afraid to, confirm, is that really prayer has been our backing. We are people of faith. If anything has been able to carry us through the different motions that we have had, it is prayer. Now, I do not want to defend that life. I do not want to defend that decision, but I think it is important that anyone who, would be hearing this to understand that we have been people of faith, and that so far has helped us. Zayn today is over 10 months old. He's happy, he's cheerful, he's energetic. He's very, very opinionated in how he behaves. I see a bright future for him. But as a man, I had to make decisions that might not have been very comfortable for me. If you told me this is what something we would have been battling in our dating phase, I don't think I'd have believed you. And even if I would have, I don't think I would have ever conceived myself as being unable to pay a medical bill. That is that much. Like how, as in, how am I unable to pay that? Like, what am I missing? I, I have understanding. I have knowledge of what to do. I have experience and clients that I can, I can rely on. So, what are you telling me? But I think, and this is what I saw a quote somewhere. Someone said that the older I get, the more I understand my father. So it is just a thinking right now of situations we might judge as very simple, as not being as simple until you're there. Like it's not as easy to think about it until you find yourself in that situation. And the older I get, the more I appreciate. I'm more appreciative of what the men before us have done, what they have achieved. Of course, we have shortcomings. They have shortcomings, but it's to basically respect those who have gone ahead of you. And I'm learning to do that more and more. I'm learning not to judge situations as fast as even not judge at all. I'd have an opinion, but what does that really matter? I am not in that situation, so I do not know what it takes. I learned to respect my wife more. Not that I didn't, but sometimes I think there are things we hold at the back of our minds with a pinch of pride, Like when someone tells you something and you think you know better, but you won't say it. You think that you understand it better, but you won't really say it like that. So I have learned more and more to appreciate her as my wife and as our caretaker. I joke nowadays. I say, in this home, you're the you're the doctor, you're the fundi, you're the caregiver, you're the chef. So there's so much they do, and there's so much that they are wired to do that it becomes crazy when you begin to think about it. And I hope that I'm able to express it to her more and more. So yeah, that's been our our story. But I thought to share that experience because I think in the times that we're living in as a country, now we have millennials. I saw a photo recently, a guy chasing another guy frantically. The guy behind is number 32 or 30. I don't know. The guy in front is the guy born in 1992 or 1993. Like, life is catching up, man. We are the parents we criticized now. We are the system that we criticized. So it is now time for us to sit at that place where we were pointing at and begin to understand what it takes to be there. If you thought that providing for you for you as a son or a daughter was easy, then now try and provide for yours under the current circumstances. Yeah. If you thought that being present was very easy, now be present as you try to meet the demands that are on you. Yeah, you have to make a decision, and not one will affect the other. Because to be present, you have to make sacrifices. To be physically present, like I try to be present now, physically, emotionally. I say that I like that my children would be able to see me, to hear me, and to feel me around the house. That's the only way, like, they're able to get things from me. So if I adopt that, then it means there's a life I have to forego. And that is a life of continuous departure from home. I have to know when to say no to certain things.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. What a powerful story. What an absolutely powerful story. Oh my goodness. When I was listening to this second part of the story, like honestly, my tears were just balancing tears. When he was talking about his business and the decisions he made in terms of what insurance cover to get, and then being told that the surgery is going to cost you upwards of 800,000 Kenya shillings, not even having the option of going to a government facility because the doctors were on strike. Let me tell you, like, I had to pause. I really had to pause. Oh my God, I had to pause. That just felt like so much. And when he spoke about how he felt like a failure because of that, it really hurts, because there's so many people who have failed, Kenyans and humans really, because this is an issue across different countries, across the continent as well, where Ministry of Health doesn't do their job. It actually costs lives, right? So because of corruption, they eat the money that's meant to pay the doctors. Corruption is violent, y'all. It actually is a matter of life or death. Like, goodness. Let's not even talk about the economic environment that makes it hard for businesses to make sustainable revenue. That's also a problem. Do you see how it plays into like real life issues? Yeah, I had balancing tears. What I also loved was just a reminder from his story that sometimes healing, growth, and even strength don't look like having control over something. They can look like surrender and leaning into your community and asking for help and just having that courage that comes out as vulnerability, like literally telling the people who care about you, hey, I can't afford ABCD and I need it like immediately. That is actually strength. You know, it's not weakness. And yeah, I also had balancing. I feel like my tears were just balancing throughout the story. My goodness. It was just a beautiful reminder that asking for help isn't failure. It really is a form of bravery. But I want to know what you connected with, what resonated with you. Please drop it in the comment section. As you heard earlier in the episode, I do read your comments and I love stumbling on them, and I love you for being part of this community. So drop your comment. I can't wait to read it on whatever platform you're listening to this on. Now, if you have listened to all of the storytellers who jump on this show and you want to share your story on this podcast, head over to our show notes. There is a link to our storyteller form. Fill it out and one of our correspondents will get back to you. Make sure you also join our community online on Instagram and TikTok. We're at Legally Clueless Africa. A link to both those pages is in the show notes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can watch our shows. Season 3 of Mannerless Women is coming up. Ooh, you're going to love the women who are coming your way in this season. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter on our website, legallycluelessafrica.com. A link to that is in the show notes. But thank you so much for listening to this episode to the very end. I truly, truly appreciate you. Got nothing but love for you. And I know that you have everything it takes to heal. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.